Hey guys, it's Simon here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're doing another wrap-up video for the month of April of 2025. I didn't really manage to finish up with everything that I said I was going to read this month, but I got distracted by The Wandering Inn, so that's understandable. I will always prioritize The Wandering Inn over other reading goals because I like it that much, right? So before we really get around to that, let's talk about the watch list first. Like I mentioned before, I watched Ted Lasso, and I think the season 3 is quite good. It's much better than season 2, and it finishes in such a way that there's no need for season 4, even though we know that there is going to be one. So that's just kind of, it is what it is. Sometimes I think that less is more. And when it comes to Ted Lasso, I think that that is the case. That is true. So we'll see. Then I finished watching Delicious in Dungeon again. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. This is a great series. I wanted to start watching Fierin again afterwards, but I haven't gotten around to it. I do need to collect the rest of the Delicious in Dungeon physically. Like, I have the first 5 volumes. I liked it, but I didn't really love it. And then I watched the anime, and I really fell in love with the series. I think it's great, and that's why, now I have a Marcel statue over there. So, I recommend you guys watch this. It's a really great anime. Then I watched this movie called Phenomenon. It's actually a documentary. It's by James Fox, and it's about aliens and UFOs, right? And it kind of gives you the history of the phenomenon, and the surge of sightings of UFOs and abductions and all of this sort of stuff. And it's pretty good. You can rent it on Amazon for about $4, which is a pretty accessible price. And I really recommend you guys watch it. I also finished watching the Lord of the Rings series. So we finished watching Fellowship of the Ring. We watched all through Two Towers, and we finished watching The Return of the King. And the thing is that although I think the extended edition Lord of the Rings movies are by far better visually, I guess, I actually enjoyed The Hobbit more personally. And I know that's kind of an unpopular opinion, but the thing is that there's too much going on in The Lord of the Rings. The extended editions basically make each movie about 4.5 hours long. Even with over 12 hours of content, it doesn't feel like everything was covered properly. There's too many moving parts and not enough time given to anyone to really breathe. And in one sense, I actually find it weird that the big climactic final battle of humanity happens before the boys manage to make it to, the Mordor. And then they have to have another epic massive fight that doesn't really mean much because it's over, right? Like, I feel like the ending is pretty satisfying, right? But compared to The Hobbit, there's just too much going on. And I know that's because The Hobbit is like a children's story, and maybe The Hobbit is actually not a great adaptation because Peter Jackson added stuff to it. That's fine. I understand the reasonable complaints about it. But when it comes to a movie watching experience, I find that I enjoy The Hobbit more. It was more linear. It made more sense. I liked the characters a lot more. There was a lot less of them. And so most of them got to shine a little bit, right? Of course, the main characters in The Hobbit are Gandalf, Bilbo, Thorin, right? And then there's kind of side characters like Philly and Killy and Balin and stuff, right? And the thing is that I actually enjoyed the dwarf plotline a bit more than like 4 hobbits going together. I just think that there's a lot going on in the Lord of the Rings, and so comparatively, the Hobbit comes off more narratively focused, if that makes sense. And so I like it more in that sense. I understand that it is a lesser movie or a lesser adaptation, right? But I liked it more. So that's just kind of my thoughts on that there. Otherwise, I watched Top Gun Maverick again. We watched this movie called Black Bag, which is like a realistic spy movie. It was pretty good. I actually quite liked it. I think that the tension created in it was really, really good. Then I watched Ranma 1/2, or half, actually, I think, because 1/2 would be 1 and a half, right? So Ranma half. And I think it's a pretty funny series. I actually really liked it. I thought that the animation was great. I really enjoyed the color choices, and the voice acting was pretty great as well. I watched it in English, and I really enjoyed it. Then I watched The Last of Us Season 2. I've only watched 2 episodes of it so far. I think at this point there's 3. and by this weekend it should be 4. But I've been watching it with some friends, and we can't always get together every weekend, so it's kind of, up in the air, right? But I really enjoyed it. I think that after episode 2, there's going to be some difficulty to the story because we lost a major character, right? I don't want to spoil it, although I guess it's not really a spoiler because if it's following the game, you should know who's dead. But the thing that made The Last of Us Season 1 work, was the connection between 2 characters. And the loss of one of those characters makes the interest in the series much more tenuous. I don't necessarily think I care that much if we don't have 2 characters interacting with each other, right? So that's just kind of my thoughts there. I'm obviously going to give it a chance. There's only 6 more episodes left total to watch, so I'm sure it'll be fine. I just don't know if it'll be as good as season 1, so we'll see. Then I started watching Devil May Cry, the Netflix series. It's pretty fun. I enjoy the vibe of it, but the voice acting is a bit ridiculous. The dialogue is just kind of odd. It's a bit too much, right? I also ended up watching Ford vs. Ferrari and The Revenge of the Sith. I watched the 20th anniversary re-release of the film in theaters. I really loved it. I think it's great. I'm pretty sure I watched this in theaters when I was a child. It came out in 2005, so I was maybe 6 years old at that point. I don't remember watching it in theaters, but I'm pretty sure I did. And so getting to watch it in theaters as an adult is kind of like a really special thing to me. I really liked it. I really appreciated it. And it was kind of nice because I got there a bit later than usual to the showing. I did manage to watch everything, the whole movie. But at the beginning, I did feel like I missed out a little bit on kind of this initial, showcasing or opening to the movie, which was Hayden Christensen, letting everyone know that he was really happy about the 20th anniversary, that he was excited for people to watch this. Kind of very similar to the way that Tom Cruise talked about Top Gun Maverick before the movie played, right? So it was very similar to that, and I really appreciated it. I thought it was great, but I feel like maybe I missed part of it, so I'm kind of upset about that. But I really enjoyed my time with the movie. I thought it was great. I'm very happy I watched it. So that's it for everything I watched this month. I really enjoyed myself in terms of television and movies, but that means that I did end up kind of cutting into my reading kind of time, right? And not so much that it was a mess. I actually ended up cutting into my reading time and not getting to read all of the stuff that I said I would because I got distracted by reading other stuff, right? So I don't know why. I got the Wandering In bug again, and I came back to the series. Last month I read through books 4 and 5, through book 4. I finished through book 5, and then I ended up following on from there. So I've been reading The Reigns of Liscor, The Blood of Liscor, and actually I'm about to finish the I think it's The Tears of Liscor. That's the last one, right, in volume 5. And because of that, and because the episodes or the chapters are so long, any time that I dedicate to The Wandering In is basically time I'm not dedicating to any other reading. And so even though I think I did a good job in terms of my reading, I basically stopped caring about the comic books that I said I would read. So we'll talk about them in a bit, but The Wandering In is amazing. I recommend everyone read it. I think that it is wonderful and phenomenal and so enjoyable. And don't listen to anyone else when they say that The Wandering In is bad, because that's not the case anymore, right? So the first volume of The Wandering In was kind of bad back in the day. At this point, if you read it on the website, you'll get the updated modern version with Pirate Abba's better writing, right? If you read the ebook version, the Kindle version, that'll also be the new updated version. And if you listen to the audiobook, that should also be the new updated version. And so you should not have many of the growing pains that a lot of people have had in the last couple of years, which is, oh, I read the, ebook, or I read the audiobook and I don't like how whiny Aaron is. Like, that doesn't really happen anymore. That's not what the version that I read came off as. So I recommend that you give it a go. I recommend you read it directly from the website. It's free. There's no cost associated to it. And I hope that you fall in love with the story because it's really, really great. So in terms of other books that I read beyond that, so like I said, I read The Last Light, which is The Wandering End 5, General of Israel, which is Wandering End 6, The Reigns of Liscor, which is 7, The Blood of Liscor, which is 8, and then I'm finishing up The Tears of Liscor, which is 9. And I also read this book called The Seeds That Were Sown, which is the 9th book in the Odyssey 1 series. It's actually the first book in the After the Odyssey series that Evan Curry is writing. The thing with Evan Curry is that he has this overarching general story, but he feels like he has to kind of meander a bit. And when he meanders, he creates these side stories. Instead of just, incorporating it directly into the main line, he kind of comes off and creates separate branching series that are actually all directly tied to the main story. And so it feels like you kind of have to read everything he makes, which is not necessarily a bad concept. I think that creators would do better if they kind of cultivated this concept, right? But it makes it kind of confusing to read. But The Seeds That Were Sown is the 9th book in the Odyssey 1 series. The 10th book actually just came out. It's called Harvest. I've not had a chance to read it because after Kindle or Amazon made it difficult, or actually nearly impossible, for you to download your Kindle books out of the Amazon ecosystem, I've not been able to get it onto my Kindle, which is connected to a different account than my dad's, which is where I used to have all of these books, right? Access to all of these books. And so I have to wait until I go home and use his Kindle to read it, and that's just going to take a while. So I don't know, but this was a pretty good book. So it's set 30 years after the end of the Odyssey 1 series. So basically Earth has been conquered by this intergalactic empire. The Earth succumbed to this greater power, but also used this massive strategic weapon called the Prometheus, right? That's what they called it. And they used Prometheus in order to burn to cinders most of the major military operations of the Empire. And so the Empire is kind of kicked in the teeth. Humanity is not gone yet because a lot of them managed to escape and create a new world for themselves in an asteroid that's near Imperial space. And now the Empire, the Permanent, which is a good race of aliens, and the humans, who are calling themselves Gaians at this point, are all kind of dealing with the fact that, hey, we had this crazy war 30 years ago, and the war started because of this other alien species called the Drazen, and it seems like they're back. And this is a problem, right? And so this is kind of what this deals with. And we follow basically the secondary characters from the Odyssey 1 as they transition over to the children of those characters and give them the coming power, right? So if Eric Weston was the main character of Odyssey 1 and Michael Stefan was the second character, right, the secondary character of Odyssey 1, he is now the main character, and his kids are the secondary characters, if that makes sense. I know that unless you read the Odyssey 1, this makes no sense to you, but I recommend you read it. It's really, really good. It's by Evan Curry. It's phenomenal stuff. So that's it for, traditional reading. Okay, so in terms of comic books, I did read a few digital ones, so I want to just quickly mention them here. So a while back, Ben Dunn, who's the owner of Antarctic Press, mentioned that he wanted to interact with YouTubers and kind of create this network of reviewers for himself, right? And so I applied to it. Actually, I just told him, hey, I'm interested, and he said, sure. And so he's been sending me a few books here and there, and I read a few of them. So the first one I read was called Kendra. This is kind of like a Red Sonja parody. It's pretty fun. I enjoy the artwork, but I think that there's some issues with it, and I will do a proper review for it on the Sword and Sorcery book channel at some point in the next couple weeks, if I can, if not in June. But I did read it. I did enjoy myself reading it, and I thought it was pretty fun. It's a 1 out of 3 kind of book, and it was pretty enjoyable. There's another one called Dreadlock the Barbarian, which is kind of similar. It's like a Sword and Planet kind of thing. It's supposed to be Sword and Sorcery with, futuristic tech. It kind of feels a little bit like stuff that we saw out of Rebel Moon, right? The Zack Snyder stuff. And I don't necessarily dislike it, but I didn't quite enjoy it. And so I don't think I'll do a review for it just because that's not really helpful to Antarctic Press. But I thought the artwork was cool. I don't necessarily think I like the story all that much, so maybe I will do a review for it. I'm not really sure, but I read both of those. Those are from AP, and they were fine. They're pretty enjoyable, but not necessarily kind of what you expect out of modern comic books. And, to some extent, that's actually a good thing, right? A lot of people might actually enjoy them more than me. It's just not really what I was looking for. But I do have some other ones that I want to read that have been sent to me, so I will get around to those at some point. In terms of physical ones, mostly I've just been reading my issues. So we have Justice League Unlimited number 5. This is pretty good. I enjoyed it. Airway finally became a villain. We have Red Sonja Mars Attacks, or Attacks Mars. I didn't really enjoy this, but the artwork's pretty fun, so I'll keep collecting it mostly for those trading cards. Conan the Barbarian number 20. Great stuff here. I think that Doug Braithwaite really shined here with the artwork, and the story was pretty enjoyable as well. You have Transformers number 19. This is a Megatron issue. This is really, really good. But I think that Ludo Lullaby's artwork is quite phenomenal. The thing is that he doesn't really stay on model all that much sometimes, and so it kind of makes it a bit disgruntling to see, but the story was really enjoyable. Here is Flash Gordon number 8. This is pretty good. It finally gets to Flash Gordon meeting with Dale Arden again, and I'm excited about that, but I'm not quite sure that it's enough at this point. It's been 8 issues. We've had some interesting, fun stuff, but nothing really matches what we got out of the first 2 issues, right? The issue 0 and issue 1. Those were kind of really, really impactful, right? Like the story starts with them blowing up a planet, and we don't have anything that approaches that level of insanity yet. And so I feel like there is a certain level of drop in excitement that comes out of that, right? And so I think that they need to really work on developing that a bit more. We have Satana number 3. This is pretty fun. I think that the greatest part about this is definitely the artwork. I think Jamal Campbell really knocks it out of the park. But the storytelling is a bit weird. It's kind of a little bit all over the place. But I did enjoy this one. We kind of have Zatanna interact with Bruce Wayne. And it seems like there's some sort of romance element to them. I've never really been a Zatanna fan, so I don't know too much about her. But I think I have heard that, her and Bruce Wayne have some sort of romantic relationship. But, when you think of partners for Batman, you don't really think Zatanna. You think, Catwoman and maybe some of the other female rogues, right? Maybe, Poison Ivy or the Huntress, right? Something like that. So I don't know too much about that, but I thought it was kind of interesting. Then we have The Moon is Following Us, and this was a great issue. I really, really enjoyed it, but I thought that there was going to be a sort of revelation that was going to be pretty dark, and it seems like it got postponed 1 issue, so we'll see where that goes. Then we have Aquaman number 4. This is great, really Arthurian, and I really enjoy that. This also felt kind of like a Pirates of the Caribbean kind of style, which I enjoyed. And then we have Thundercats Lost, which is really, really good. This is a interesting start to a new side story for the Thundercats. This one feels like a Vietnam War story as opposed to the main story, which feels like a sword and sorcery story, right? We have Ultimate Spider-Man 15. This is great. I enjoyed seeing Peter fail as he tries to teach his kid about being Spider-Man, and I enjoyed the way that he's really inculcating this idea of helping everyone into his kids, and I like that a lot. And then we have Superman, Absolute Superman number 6. This was also really great. I enjoyed this. But it feels like there's kind of these weird, switch ups with kind of the story. Like, did the Kents really raise him, or were they just nice to him for a few weeks and he really, empathized with them, or he really connected with them? It's kind of unclear. And I want more explanation about that, but I don't know if we'll really get it from Jason Aaron. So I'm really just curious to see where that goes. But that was basically most of the comic books I read. The only thing that I kept up with a little bit was also this. So that's Invincible. This is book 4 in the Ultimate Collection. I read about 3 or 4 issues in it. I did start reading this, but then I got sidetracked by The Wandering End. So that means that I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere, but that female Viltrumite did show up finally. So I'm excited about this. We got this part here where she shows up, she beats Alan the Alien, and then it seems like she's going to come back to Earth later and maybe fall in love with Mark. I think that's kind of what happens there. But it's nice to finally understand who this character is, on some level. And I think that I might get back to watching Invincible at some point here soon. I'm definitely going to keep reading this into May. Since May is my sci-fi month, this kind of still fits since it's about aliens and superheroes. And so I will continue to read it into May, but I'm not really sure how much I'll read of it. I mean, I have more time now because the semester is about to end. At the same time, though, I don't know if I'm going to spend my time on this when I can be reading The Wandering Inn, right? So we'll see. I have a lot of videos I have to make, so I also won't have time in that sense, right? But that's it for the comic books. Let's talk about the manga now. So in terms of manga, I read through 3 volumes of Slam Dunk. So that's Slam Dunk 5, 6, and 7. This is great. This is the start of their tournament arc. And I like the way it's paced because you don't see all of the stories. You don't see all of the games. You see the important ones and then kind of skips through some of the stuff. And the lead up to the start of the tournament was pretty good because we introduced this other character who used to be part of the team, who used to be like kind of like one of the trifecta characters, and he fell out of love with basketball, or actually he was scared to come back to basketball after an injury, and so became this bitter person. And then he kind of acted out of turn, and this was a cry for help. And Coach Anzai and the team realized this, and so they found a way to bring him back. And I love that aspect of the story. I feel like this character, Mitsuchi, I think is his name, was forgiven too quickly, in my opinion. And so I'll talk about that when I get around to doing that review. But I think that Takehiko Inoue's ability to talk about basketball is phenomenal. His ability to do work that isn't directly related to the pacing of basketball feels a bit lackluster sometimes. Like, there has to be some sort of discussion about this guy that goes beyond just like, you know, Coach Anzai, I love basketball, please let me back on the team, right? Especially because he was about to ruin so many players' lives by just beating the shit out of them, right? And getting this other guy to help him. And that's really messed up. That's not, I mean, that is a cry for help, but it is not one that can be forgiven so easily. And so, I don't know, I think there's some work to be done there, but at the same time, it's totally understandable. And I get what the point of the story is, right? What the point of that scene or those sets of scenes is. And so I can't fault it too much, right? But yeah, so otherwise I read Super Ball Girls. This was pretty interesting. It's not really my cup of tea, to be honest with you, because I like Manayuki Kaneshio's storytelling. And I like Akira Hiramoto's art style, but there is a lot of crazy, over-the-top, like grotesque imagery here. And it's not grotesque in the sense that it's like depicting, you know, insane violence or anything like that. It's just the way that it's drawn is meant to look ugly, or to be very, well done, but to incite some sort of feeling of like discomfort or ugliness or like ew, right? Like this kind of cringe kind of based reaction. And I don't necessarily think I enjoy that in my manga. I don't want to have this sort of like spectacle for the sake of spectacle, this like cringe-inducing artwork just for the sake of it. It doesn't feel valuable. It doesn't add anything to the story. Now, you know, sometimes it's fine, but this is the type of story, especially considering Yagan, where this is something that happens for the sake of it happening. Like, that is the point of what Manayuki Kaneshiro is trying to say, or trying to do with this, series, and the artwork is meant to reflect that. And that's not necessarily something I enjoy all that much. So it's not really my cup of tea. I'll have to think about it a bit more. I think I want to buy one more volume of it before I decide. But for now, I don't think it's for me. Then we have Dinosaur Sanctuary number 6. This was great. I really enjoyed it. We had some interesting developments there with the Ceratopsians there. And then we also got some interesting kind of speculation about the smartness of some of these dinosaurs, right? And the fact that they are like chickens, but they're also maybe possibly able to be more intelligent. So I thought that was fun. We get introduced to this young kid who's the son of a, magnate or whatever, like a rich person who funds dinosaur research. But this kid is lonely, and he doesn't really have a good way to connect with people. And Suzume, being such a nice, empathetic person, tries to find a way to do so with him. And I really love that. I think that was really valuable. Then we have I'm a Wolf, but my boss is a Sheep. This is the end of the story. It was really, really good. I thought there was only 4 volumes. When there was a 5th, I was quite happy about it. And it took me a long time to get it, but I did enjoy it. We finally get the development of the relationship. They finally admit their feelings to each other. They finally get around to, dating, and they also finally get married. And so I enjoyed the story a lot, but I feel like it was too fast to end, right? And I don't think it was a canceled series. I think that this story kind of just went as far as it could, and then there needed to be resolution, and the resolution just ended up being fast. And because it was fast, there was like extra chapters they could have done, and so they just decided to make this really accelerated timetable where the characters admit their feelings, the characters date, the characters get married immediately, and then they have kids at the end of the story. And that's fine, but it feels just too quick in my opinion. I feel like it could have been, you know, mellowed out a little bit. It could have been a 7-issue series. It could have been a 12-issue series, or sorry, volume series. And the accelerated pace at the end just feels a bit much for me. But I did enjoy it regardless. I did have a lot of fun with it. So I'm very happy that I did finish, and it finished well. It's just, for my preference, it was a bit too fast, right? And then finally, we have Dragon and Chameleon. This is a great story. It's a bit of a Freaky Friday story. It's a story about manga making. And it's a story about this guy realizing that he is basically at the top of manga. And so if he was ever to compete with anyone, it would have to be against himself, but that's impossible. And because of the Freaky Friday situation, he has that opportunity now, because there's this other guy who's the chameleon, right? The main character that I just described as Dragon. The chameleon is someone that can copy his style and that has now taken over his body. And so now that they're switched, our main character feels like he can finally compete against himself and finds value in that. Whereas the other character finally wants what finally has what he wants, without having to have worked to get it. And so they're both kind of happy with their situation, even though they ultimately, or at least the Dragon wants to come back to his body because he prefers being himself, right? So I really enjoyed it. I think it's a very interesting story. I love the art style here, and the way that it changes sometimes is just phenomenal. Like, that looks freaking awesome, right? So I picked up the second book, and hopefully I'll get the third one here soon. So yeah, that's basically all I read and all I watched this month. What did you guys read and watch? What was your favorite thing to read? Let me know down in the comments, and thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys later.